This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start as usual thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Welcome everybody I'd like for you to join us at abnormalentertainment.com, where you can find all the shows on the network. Everything you want, anything you want, it's probably there, so go check it out. Also, you can follow me on Put It Together Podcast on Facebook. Look for Little Mexican on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget, we have our show, Zodiacs with Daniel and Wayne every other Monday, and you can find that page also on Facebook. So look for it, find the schedule, 7 o'clock every other Monday, get your horoscopes. We look forward to seeing you there. This week, I'm excited. I have a guest that I've been following for a little while. He finally made it back to California, so I'm kind of excited. Joel Ward, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. How you doing?
Good. So, I was trying to think about how I found you, and I think it was through some videos and I think an interview that you did somewhere, and I was like, oh, he seems cool. Okay. Like young, but you're an illusionist, right?
Magician, illusionist, close-up, sleight-of-hand artist, prestidigitator. There's many terms for a magician. Yeah.
Now he's going to show off a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I saw you, and I was like, oh, he's kind of young, hip. He's got a story. Like he's got to have a put it together story. So I tracked you down for a little while, but you were in
Lake Tahoe for the month of January. Yeah.
And so I had to wait for you to come back to California.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Yeah, excied.
Thank you for letting me
Well, I was technically in California. I was in Lake Tahoe, California.
Oh, California. Sorry.
So no, it's on state line though. So it's split between Nevada and California. But I was actually performing on the California side this time, which is kind of fun because for the last 10 years I've been performing on the casino side, which is Nevada, which is in state line. So in Cali, born and raised in Cali. I'm a Californian. I was born and raised down in San Diego, North County, San Diego, a little town called Cardiff by the Sea, which is like near Encinitas and kind of that part of the world. So yeah, I was born and raised down there. And
did you learn Spanish as a kid?
Yeah, I mean that was my second language. So I learned it starting I think. Spanish class just started 7th grade in Encinitas at Oak Crest Junior High. So un poquito,
we'll get your Spanish in a minute.
Yeah, hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Joel, yo soy mago. Yeah.
Wow, and a really good accent too. I mean, doesn't even sound like gringo.
Oh, yeah?
That's pretty good. Yeah,
it's fun.
We might just do this in Spanish a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've performed a few shows in Spanish in Puerto Rico and Mexico, and I used to volunteer when I was younger down in orphanages down in Mexico and stuff. I would go down there and do shows and stuff. Those are some of the best days. It's like trying to do a show in Spanish and like really just like it was definitely fun.
Well, I am impressed. Yeah. I was expecting a really thick, like gringo accent. I was like,
hola.
Yeah, I was
Give me some guacamole.
Wow, like his Spanish sounds better than mine.
There's the carne asada.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for visiting with me.
For sure.
Come over. Well, I guess let's get started. So tell us, Mr. Joel Ward, how do you put it together?
I guess I would like to kind of start at the beginning. I saw a magician when I was 6 years old. I was either kindergarten or first grade. I tell the story so often that sometimes I wonder if I keep telling it, if it's morphing into something else. Have you ever thought about that? Like, if you tell a story so often, you're like, is that the truth? Or like, what did really happen? So it was either kindergarten or first grade. I want to say first grade. I saw a magician at my local elementary school, Cardiff Elementary in Cardiff. And I just remember I was a really shy kid. I didn't really care for the magician. I was kind of sat in the back I remember just sitting in the back of the auditorium. It was more of like a recreational room. And I wore a ball cap. I was wearing a black hat, sporting my dad's company. He worked for General Dynamics at the time. And I was just really shy. I just didn't really care for the magician. But he needed an assistant, and I didn't even raise my hand, and he called me from the back of the audience. He pulled me up on stage. He's like, "You're going to be the magician." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, dude." Like, really? So he gave me 2 rings called the Chinese linking rings. I don't know. Are you familiar with the trick?
Yeah.
So they're these like 2 big steel rings, and he put them in my hand, 2 of them, like 2 separate rings. And he's like, on the count of 3, you're going to let go of one of the rings and they're going to link together and you're going to be a magician. I was like, okay, you're going to make me look like a fool in front of my entire school. But on the count of 3, I let go of one of those rings and they linked together and the whole school applauded. And he told me I was a magician and I believed him. I was like, oh my gosh, I just did a magic trick and I'm actually a magician. So I went home. I was missing 2 front teeth at the time and told my mom that day that I got to help the musician. And she was like, oh, what instrument did you play? And I was like, no, like the rings, like where they linked together. And she's like, oh, magician. She's like, oh, cool. So she knew I was interested at that point. So that Christmas, so this was around September. So I think a couple months later, that Christmas, my mom and dad got this idea that they were going to buy me a magic set for Christmas. And they purchased this magic set at a toy store. And I remember it was wrapped. It was underneath the tree. And then my dad did a little bit more research. He went to a local magic shop near his work in Kearney Mesa called Brad Bird's Magic Shop. And he went down to the shop and started talking to the owner. And the owner's like, oh, well, those magic sets aren't really good for kids. They get the kid interested in magic, but then what happens is that they kind of like learn everything and they treat it as puzzles and then they kind of throw it in the closet and move on to the next thing. So before Christmas, my parents took that set back to the toy store and my dad took me down to the magic shop and he told me to pick out one trick. And we got this one trick for Christmas and then he bought me a book on sleight of hand. It was this book called Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic. And on Christmas morning, we learned how to do sleight of hand. We learned a trick where you take a coin, you grab it, and you make it disappear.
Right.
And I didn't
always
quite
loved that trick, by the way.
Yeah, it's a classic, right? And I was so impressed with it. I didn't really, my dad had to actually learn it as well and teach me how to do it. It was kind of complex and that was the beginning. I was hooked. I was totally enamored by the art. I would say, whatever sort of savings, I don't know if I had savings at 6 or 7, but my parents would take me every once in a while and I would get one trick at the magic shop and I would have to learn it and master it. And then once I learned it, eventually I would get another one. And so I started learning the sleight of hand and also, gimmicked magic tricks, apparatus, stuff that I would buy and learn and, stuff that you would do at 7, you're not doing complex card tricks at that
Right.
point. But so I was kind of hooked and that was kind of my thing. I was the magician at school. I would warm up the kids in 2nd grade. I would warm up the class every morning with a magic trick and it got me to kind of come out of the shell of being this shy kid, and it gave me sort of a purpose, a sort of a direction of, I guess it kind of created me, like as like a person. It kind of shaped me as I was the magician, it's like, Joel's the magician, like Joel, do some magic. So
did you understand at that age the talent that it takes to do tricks? I mean, not everybody can pull them off.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. No, I was just so enamored by the illusion, the secrecy of how it happened, I was more interested in that, I think. And, I didn't really have any goals at the time. It was just fun. Like, It was just kind of something I liked to do, And, I didn't know I was going to do it professionally or anything. I didn't really even care for that.
Did that straighten a bond between you and your dad since you guys were living?
I think so. Yeah. So it was actually, it was really nice. So my brother, I have an older brother. He's 3.5 years older, and he got into it around the same time. So he saw that I was interested into it, and he's like, oh, I want to do that. And he actually got into it, and we both started taking these magic classes at the magic shop. And he he was more advanced. He was older, so he had bigger hands, and he was able to do more complex sleight of hand stuff. And he was better in the beginning. Like, he was able to really do the sleight of hand stuff when I was more interested in the apparatus and the gimmicks and the tricks. So we got into it together, and he sort of got out of it. I think maybe he dabbled in it for like 3 or 4 years, but our first shows were together, the Ward brothers. We did birthday parties for kids as kids.
Nice.
So my mom was, she kind of ran a sewing camp on the side. So she would teach all the girls in my class, like how to sew at our house. So she would help me sew tuxedos and, secret pockets in my jackets and stuff. And my dad would help me read the instructions and also the books. And he would also help me build, contraptions and boxes and stuff in the workshop.
Cool.
So they were very supportive. They were, my parents they're kind of like hippie parents. They weren't, they're not well educated. They didn't go to college. They were loving parents. They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of education, but they were there for us. They were always just there, and they knew that I was interested in magic, so they just wanted to push that. They're like, if he's into it, so there was magic camps and stuff that they would apply for scholarships, and I would get these scholarships to go to these fancy magic camps up in Idlewild, and I would go every summer, and they were, my parents couldn't pay for them, but they were able to get recommendations from my teachers and principals and the local magic shop, and they were really, supportive in that sense of able to kind of push me towards that.
Well, that's such a great lesson, I think, when you're a kid. That before we started recording, we were talking about things that you learn from your parents that you, at the time, you're kind of like, Mom, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
But now as an adult, that's such a great lesson in being resourceful.
Yeah.
It's like, there's something out there available for you.
Yeah.
Just go for it. I mean, there's tons of scholarships for kids nowadays for all kinds of stuff. And some people don't even know about it. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if the scholarships were actually existed. Like, I think my mom, kind of sort of just asked, and they were like, well, no, but yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. Like, I think it just kind of, she happened upon it, because she was persistent and she was determined, That's one thing. They were both very determined to help, however way they could. If it couldn't be financially, then it would be another way. So
the old classic, if you don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So I did magic, through grade school. Right around 3rd or 4th grade, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. It was a rare bone cancer in his pelvis. And we weren't sure that he was going to make it. It was kind of he was laid off from his job. He went in for a checkup. They found it, and it was this grapefruit-sized tumor in his pelvis.
Wow.
And they were so it really kind of hit me and my brother hard. That's when my brother kind of started phasing out of the magic. And we both were kind of, I still it was still there, but I was just kind of put it on the back burner, And, he went through a couple surgeries to get out the cancer, and, 6 months later they found more and they had to go back in, and finally, he was hospitalized for, close to 90 days or something, and finally he came home and he was cancer free and he started recovering, but, he was changed. He was, he was a different man. He, couldn't work anymore. My mom had to start working, and, it totally changed the whole dynamic of the household and everything. But, through it, I was, I kind of changed a little bit. I started getting more into my brother's activities like skateboarding and kind of hanging out with the skater kids, and started dabbling and smoking marijuana at a young age and drinking alcohol and kind of going down the path of, whatever the other local skater kids were doing, and,
right.
But I knew I had this magic thing on the side, and, and I was still there, but I just wasn't, it wasn't until my dad was totally recovered from the cancer where I started getting back into it. And,
why do you think that you put it aside?
I mean, I think I was just depressed. I mean, I was just like sad. I thought I was going to lose my dad, you know? So I thought, you know, yeah, I mean, it was, yeah, it was like kind of like a thing that, that we did together and he helped me with. And if I was going to lose him, then what's the point? Like, I rather, you know, I think, you know, my brother and I joked at one point, we're like, if dad dies, let's start doing heroin. We're like, it was dark. It was like a dark time, you know, but we were kids. Like, we didn't really know, you know, but no, I mean, I dabbled, I smoked some marijuana, you know, partaked in some alcohol here and there, but, you know, it never really turned into a problem. You know, it just was sort of like
I think most teens, at some point, again, we talked about all this a little bit before we started. I mean, I started drinking when I was 15 and didn't stop till I was 36. So that was a long career with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that I went through chemo and radiation for my cancer, and I'm cancer-free now. But I stopped doing podcasts. That was something that was something that made me feel energetic, and I love, no matter how depressed or sad I feel. Yeah. If I have an interview to do, I perk up. Yeah. And
yeah, totally. It's like me. Like when I'm doing magic, especially close-up magic, I'm happy. I'm communicating with people. I'm interacting with other human beings, and I'm having fun. I'm talking, and I feel happy. But when I find myself sad, I'm like, oh well, I'm not performing. Like if I go a week without doing a show, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, oh, I'm not out there. I'm not doing my craft, like my passion. So
I can understand.
So
that.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. This week is more of a full week, but it was Monday, and I was like, and I'd already done like 2 interviews by 2:00 in the afternoon, and the online show that we do, and still at the end of the day, I was like, I haven't done anything today. It's like, oh, okay, shut up, Daniel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dig it. Like, yeah. I think we're secretly workaholics, and when you don't have that drug, your mind goes into another direction.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's just like having some sort of like purpose, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Is the only way you're gonna like want to get up in the morning and kind of move forward, you know?
So so your dad gets better.
So my dad gets better, and I start getting into it hardcore. Magic. I start doing like competing in magic contests. I start training with mentors. I joined the Magic Castle Junior program. Okay. Magic Castle is this big place here in Hollywood. It's like been around since the 50s, and it's this mecca for magic. It pulls magicians in from all over the world. It's the only real institution for magic. And I joined this junior program when I was 15, and I would take the train up, and I would learn from the best magicians in the world, you know, and so I would, you know, workshop my act and get critiques from other professional magicians, and I made all these friends and bonds, and then I started competing in these magic contests, international magic competitions.
And how old were you at that time?
So I was 15 when I started.
Wow, that's huge for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, so it was kind of my thing. It kept me very like out of, you know, I would say the party scene in high school, and kind of kept me focused on something.
Nice.
Which was kind of cool. So I ended up like winning these magic contests, and I started competing, and my principal at the school was like, Joel, you can't like take like a week off to like go to Little Rock, Arkansas to compete. And I was like, yeah, but I just got booked on my first international TV gig in Las Vegas. Like, I'm taking the week off. And he's like, dude, you're going to have to like homeschool, like, do like independent study. So I did. So I ended up finishing high school, independent study, and would go in once a week, turn in my work, get my new work, and I finished early, ended up like graduating like a few months early, and then I moved out. I was 17. I was making enough money doing like shows, and I was very like kind of independent, you know, like my older brother and my younger sister, they weren't as independent, but I was just like, I was very OCD as a kid. I was very clean. I spilled water on my pants, I would change them. But my family, it was like a bigger, we had five people in our family. They weren't so clean, the laundry would build up. I shared a room with my brother my entire, growing up. Drove me crazy. It was super messy. So at 17, I had enough money, and I asked my parents, I was like, hey, look, I graduated high school. I have enough money. Can I move out? Like, I have this apartment I can move into. So I moved in. I got an apartment. I got a roommate. And that was it. I mean,
Wow.
I've been on my own ever since. I've been supporting myself doing magic since I was 17.
Wow.
I started, I kind of went through, I guess you would call it an associate's degree at a junior college. It was Maricosta Junior College down in Cardiff and Oceanside. And I did like 3 years, got my associate's degree. My plan was to move on, go to UCSD and finish up. But I got this 3-month contract at the Tropicana in Atlantic City for a summer. And that led to some other gigs, and I just never looked back. I never went back to school, and kind of just been doing it ever since.
Okay, so other than the situation with your dad, him getting sick,
Yeah.
it seems like everything flowed pretty easily.
Yeah.
Did it?
No. I mean, no, it's not. It's never been easy. It's been, God, show business. What a...
Well, I know that.
People think it's glamorous.
Of course it is. I wake up in sequence every morning.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah.
Yes.
You shower with glitter, right? Yeah.
As most gay people do, of course. How do you think I'm so shiny?
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
Where was... Because obviously you put it together. We want to know, like,
Yeah.
what hurdles did you have to jump through, and how you put that together?
Well, I mean, financially, it's never been easy. It's always been, making a living as a magician is, most people don't even think it's possible, Like, most people say, okay, like, what's your day job? Like, what do you do during the day to support yourself? And fortunately, I haven't had to do a day job, but I'm also very, what's the word when you're, like...
Determined,
Not
focused?
determined, focused, but stubborn, right?
Oh,
I'm very
okay.
stubborn.
That's the opposite. That's the other side of the spectrum. Okay,
right?
yeah.
So I'm like, no, I don't want to do anything else. This is what I want to do. So at times of, financial hardship, I would have to work harder. I would have to hustle, and I would hustle, and I do hustle. I set a budget every month, for my expenses and my income coming in, and I know I have a target to meet, and I have to make it,
So, looking at it, there was no plan B. This was going to work because it was going to work.
Well, there's no plan B because I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have nothing to fall back on.
But then there's a lot of people who don't have college degrees and go into entertainment business.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't finish college, and coming into acting, I was like, okay, well, I can always go back to my trade, which was office management. But from your story, it just sounds like
there is no plan B.
There is no plan B.
No.
This was going to work because it was going to work.
Yeah, it has to work. I've never had the idea of it not being able to work. It has to work. And I remember I was like 17 or 18. We took a trip from the Magic Castle Junior program to Las Vegas to see David Copperfield.
Oh, wow.
And there's this guy, Chris Kenner, who works for David Copperfield, and he invited all of the juniors to go tour his warehouse and see a show and then do a Q&A with him. And I remember asking him a question. I was like, someone else asked the question, and they were like, they're like, how do you know if you want to be a professional magician? He's like, if you have any inkling or doubt to do anything else, then it's not for you. But if it's the only thing that you can think of, it's the only thing that you can do, then it's for you, And I knew that at that point I was like, yeah, this is the only thing I know I can do. Like, this is the only thing I want to do. Like, this is the only thing I'm gonna do.
So because for people who don't know, show business can be tricky. You can have a really busy month and you're like, yes, I'm banking it. And then the next month, things really slow down. You're like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
At no point in the lows did you ever think, okay, well, I'm going to go try and do this for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean there's definitely I've lived in LA for about 10 years now. When I first moved to LA, that was probably the hardest times I ever faced. Like rent was a lot cheaper in San Diego and different places. But when I moved to Hollywood, it was like shit, like this is expensive, and I had times where I would write a check and for rent, and I would be like, hey, like, landlord, like, can you hold on to, or can you hold this for like a few days? Like, or it would bounce. And then he would be like, hey man, where's my money? And I would have a few more days to get by and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I've definitely had times where I'm like, oh shoot, I need to get side work or, and in those times, like, I was like, I would just sell stuff. I would just like sell my furniture or sell like a big prop that I had purchased years before and, make enough money to make,
Wow.
or, I even took, I remember, in the early years of moving to LA, I would take, a loan out on my car, on my truck, cause my truck was paid off. So I would get like a car loan to make ends meet or, I would just do whatever I had to do to
stay in
it,
Yeah.
And, fortunately it's,
Would that be a piece of advice or suggestion that you give it people?
well, I don't know. I mean,
Or does it take a certain kind of Joe Ward to be able to pull that off?
I don't know if I would recommend show business to anybody.
Really?
I mean, I think it has to find you, I don't think someone can say, hey, yes, you do it. Like, I think you have to want it so bad. I think you have to really find that sort of passion inside of you that has that fire that will enable you to do it, whatever it is. And so I can't, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a tough,
Yeah.
It's a tough gig, it's not easy. It's not always fun,
Yeah, that's for
you
sure.
know, like traveling, like doing a red eye and then traveling all day and then getting to a gig and then checking into a hotel and then having 1 hour to friggin' rest or shower real quick before you have to go set up and then you have to be on and then be super like happy and perform. And then afterwards the client wants to take you out to dinner and you still have to be on and happy. And then you have to, they want to get you drunk and then you have to wake up at 6 a.m. and then fly all the way back and then do it again. Like that's taxing. That's hard. It's not. It's not.
What has been your longest stretch living out of your suitcase?
Well, I mean, I've done like a year. I've lived in a casino for a year.
Oh, wow.
In a hotel room. That was like the longest, in a hotel room was 1 year at the Horizon, which is now the Hard Rock Casino in South Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
And that was fun.
And
yeah, it was fun at
it
the
was
time.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the first few months were tough. I was like, I had like a girlfriend at the time who was my assistant and we broke up like a few months in.
Oh.
So I had to like get a new assistant and that was tough. But once that was, settled, it was fun. Yeah.
Joe, now that you talked about girlfriends, I know from actors, because I do acting also, and like relationships, and sometimes a gig comes up and you're like, sorry, hon, we can't go to the movies.
Yeah.
I'm going to work tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
How are you?
How does that work?
How does it work for you? Not just
Yeah.
Love interest, but friendships, family.
Well, it's very fascinating because there's been two things today before you came over that are very much in that realm, so we have Valentine's Day coming up on Wednesday.
Right.
And so I have a fiance. We've been together for 6 years. We're getting married in August.
Congratulations.
And thanks, man. And she's an actor. I'm a magician. we both booked gigs for Valentine's Day.
Nice.
So she booked a commercial. I booked a comedy club. So we're both going to work and we're going to make money, and then we can go out on Thursday, you know?
Yeah.
When everything's cheaper.
Yeah.
So she gets it. So that's really cool. But other things, like she's turning 30 next week. So on Friday, we're throwing her a party down in San Diego, and I got a call from a buddy today, a respected magician friend of mine. He's like, hey man, you want to make X amount of dollars on Friday night in Beverly Hills doing a sweet gig? And it's hard to turn down that money, but it's also her 30th, and we've already planned this party. And yes, I could use the money this month. Work is not so hot in February for me. It's typically slow, but I had to say no, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, and part of me is like, dude, why don't I just do the gig for a few hours and then I'll be late to the party? But I'm like, no, I can't. Like, so in the past, I would say through my 20s, I would always say yes to the gig, always take the money. But I think as I'm getting older, in my 30s and stuff, it's like I want to live. Like I want to live my life and celebrate these milestones and people's, you know, because, you know, like I don't know how long, you know, I'm going to be able to do this gig, and you know, so to me, like my priorities this year, my 2018 goals are more family based. They're more family, relationship. That's all priority now. And gigs and magic and everything is taking a step back. And that's the first time I've ever felt this way in my entire life. I've always been married to the magic and married to the business. And now putting it in the back seat is actually really refreshing. It's really nice. What
made that switch?
You know, I think it's the fear of time, you know, the fear of the clock ticking, of the inevitable end of life, you know. I think that's kind of a big thing to me, and also to my lady. We're both atheists. We don't really believe in the afterlife. We believe that we have to create our own heaven on earth, and so now it's just the time's clicking, and so I got to make those sacrifices of what's important, you know. And to me, those other, you know, family and relationships are more important to me. So yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of.
Well, I commend you for that, because it in my life it's taken serious illnesses to ground me and go, okay, I get it. Like, I need to pay more attention to this.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, though, I turned 45, and that's when I had my cancer. It turned me more into like work with the meaning. Before I used to just, like you said, work. Hey, there's a gig, it pays good. Let's go do it. And now it's kind of like, I want to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say work with a medium, because that's also another thing I want to really focus on for the next, you know, for the rest of my life is working with a medium. It's like, yeah, I can go up to a comedy club and do a 10 or 15 minute set and make people laugh and do some tricks that are amazing. But are they meaningful? Are people going to really remember them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that's going to have some sort of effect on people later on, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to figure out, you know? I think that's what's really important, you know, in life is being able to give that sort of meaning or truth, like bringing some sort of truth or realness to the art, you know? And I think like the people who are really successful have found that, you know, and they've really crossed that sort of barrier is the people who bring some sort of realness.
Well, I'll take what you just said as a validation for my career choices. I used to do podcasts, and I try to mimic other people's work. Like, how do they ask questions? What kind of questions do they ask? And basically, you got the same interview that somebody else got. Mm-hmm. People walked away from me not feeling really like, oh, okay, well, that's just another interview. Yeah. Nice. Then after this new batch of interviews, like, I really want to know your story. Like,
well, I was thinking about that this morning before you came over. I was like, what's going to be different about this podcast? Like, I've told my story of how I've been a magician, so many times. Like, it's already been out there so many times. Like, what's going to be real or new about this, you know? So yeah, it's, I think it's a good, exploration for people to kind of really spend the time on thinking about those things. And yeah, I think it's really important.
Well, I've always told my guests, if you have a website, I don't want to talk about it because people can go read your website.
Mm-hmm.
If you've written a book, I don't want to talk about it because people can go read your book.
Right.
What have you not talked about that we can talk about? Like what?
Yeah.
How do you put it together? How do you make it work for yourself? And
I mean, I think some of the other like struggles that are making me kind of realize that I want to put like other things before my career now are, you know, also like just age and time. Just, you know, I'm 34 now and my parents are getting older, you know, I see like the aging parents and, you know, and then there's also, you know, some other things where it's just like, yeah, like I want to make sure, I don't know, I like to put my family and other people like first sometimes, you know, and maybe that's kind of a weakness. You know, I think a lot of people who are very successful are very into themselves and like very, you know, I see a lot of my colleagues and friends who are doing really well, but it's all about them. You know, you talk about them, it's kind of a one-sided conversation. It's like, well, here's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. It's me, you know? Well, and that's cool and that's great, but I don't know, maybe that's just not really who I am or, you know, and that's fine. Like I've realized like, I don't need to be the next David Copperfield. I don't need to be, you know, I don't need to be anybody else anymore. Like, you know, when I was a kid, of course I wanted to be the next, you know, famous magician, but I no longer see these people on pedestals and say, oh, I need to emulate that, you know?
Right.
I just want to refine and make me better.
And that's huge. I think I mean, I just turned 47 and there was times in my life when I was like, when I first started doing podcasts, my thing was I want to be the male Mexican version of Oprah. That's what I want to be. Like, I want to be that. And then I was like, oh God, she's on Weight Watchers. I don't want to do that. Like, screw that. I like my tacos way too much.
Yeah.
Until she started her taco commercial, then I was like, okay, you're cool now again. But
do you think she's going to run for president?
I don't think so.
I don't think she will either. Yeah.
She's got a network. Like, why would you?
Yeah, right.
Like, if I had a network, I wouldn't do it. But then now I just want to be the best representation of me.
Yeah.
Like there's this hidden rule about interviewing people that you don't share your story. It's about the other person. Mm-hmm. But now I think, what better way to get to know you than by sharing a little bit of me? Because why should you trust me? Why should Joe Ward trust me if I can't tell you a little bit about myself?
Well, and also I think that it will also help your guests be more comfortable to share things that they wouldn't necessarily share if you're opening up about things that are maybe, I think, are more vulnerable or, you know.
And then again, most of the stuff, I mean, I've been presenting on HIV for years and now cancer, and I have an ostomy also, so I talk about that, and sometimes I'm all over Google, so people can probably search me. So let's go back to you. This is about you, though. What would you want to do next, given the choice? A genie appears and goes, "All right, Joel, this is your chance for a plan B or another career." What would you want to do?
Outside of magic?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really into production and behind the scenes stuff. So the last few years I've been consulting a lot for television and film and a couple live like productions, and it's really fun to sort of be behind the scenes and teach people who can bring things to life, you know. And sometimes they can do it much better than you ever could, you know? So like I worked recently on this Disney film that was supposed to be out this year. We'll see.
Nice.
It stars somebody that has been in the media recently. That they might, just might can the film, but we'll see. But it was like really fun to see these teach these kid actors how to do magic, and
Nice.
it was just awesome. But and then also some TV shows and stuff, and so the consulting stuff is fun in a sense where the pressure is less on me since I don't have to perform. I don't feel like I have to look my best or dress my best. I can just arrive on set and just teach my skill, teach my craft to somebody else. And it's really fun. I've never really been into the whole teaching thing. People have always asked me to mentor their kids and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not into that. But I think that's going to be really fun as I get older. Last night I volunteered for a bunch of these troubled youth teens. They're kind of court ordered to stay somewhere, and they got into some trouble, and I taught a magic class, and there was these 7 funny kids, so much potential, and I was teaching them magic, and I had fun, and I had a really good time, and they're like, do you want to do this again? I was like, yeah, I want to come back, and I want to do this on a regular basis. And so, I think teaching, stepping behind the scenes, doing more of the consulting, but also just producing content and fun stuff. My lady Allison, she's really funny, and she likes to do these sketches, and she likes to film these weird music videos, and she has all these ideas, and I like to produce them. I like to film. I like to help write them, and I like to help her edit them and stuff. So I think that sort of realm of
nice.
Production.
It's fun. Production is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
Because I've started producing my videos and edit them and music and titles.
It's fun, right?
And when you finally see the end product, you're like, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It's not to put it out there, I still love acting. So if you're listening to this and you're casting, I'll send you my resume and headshot. But there's definitely something to be behind and be in control of things.
Yeah.
Because to be in show business, to be a magician or illusionist, to be on stage, or to be an actor, there has to be a level of narcissism. You have to be a little ham for attention, or you can't pull it off. Right? But,
totally.
But if after you've done it for a while, to step behind and go, okay, let somebody else have the spotlight.
Yeah.
I'm still part of it.
Right.
But somebody else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see that as being a future thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be me,
Yeah. Well, let me know where to send my resume and my headshot. I'm all for it. I have no morals or standards anymore.
Yeah. That's cool.
Is working with kids prepping you for your own kids?
Ooh, wow. Yeah, the idea sounds just terrifying right now, Yeah, maybe one day. Yeah, I think one day. Yeah. Hopefully not now. Yeah. I always just see myself.
You look so scared. It's just a question. I don't know anything.
Terrifying. No, yeah, I see myself as not an older parent, but I just want to have financial stability. I didn't really have financial stability growing up. So I want to have own a house and have money set aside where I can put it into a college fund, and I want to do all those things that I wasn't able to have if I want to bring other life, into this world. There's already so many freaking people. I don't want to just bring people in and not have them set up for success. Why? It just doesn't make any sense. So.
Would you pass down your magic knowledge to your kids?
I would if they wanted to know. I wouldn't force it on them,
No, you have to carry the torch.
No, not at all. I see a lot of teams. There's the famous Thurstons, Harry Blackstone, or not the famous Thurstons, the Blackstones. Harry Blackstone Sr. and then Harry Blackstone Jr., And they're always trying to emulate their father, or trying to be as good as their father or something. And I don't really care for that, you know? I think you should find your own path in life and your own passions and stuff. But if they were definitely interested and they were good at it and they liked it, I would definitely encourage that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the 45-minute mark.
Okay.
This is usually when I ask my guests to send some words of wisdom out to my listeners.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, so what words of wisdom would you share?
Wow. Gosh, so many words of wisdom. You know, I would say like a couple things like work ethic is very important. You know, whatever it is that you do or want to do, you have to have some sort of like work ethic where you know, I always find that like the biggest task, the biggest thing in my head, like, oh my God, this is going to be like the hardest thing ever. As soon as I just start diving into it, right? Or start figuring it out, like whatever it is. Like last night was this, I had to get back to this production company for this potential consulting gig. And to me, it was just like, I just didn't know how to start the process, you know? Right. But whatever it is, like, you know, I had to just read the 20-page, you know, manual that they sent me and then start figuring out. But I think that the more information that you can get on a subject, the more homework you do, the better. In a sense where you're more prepared, you have the more knowledge to either move forward with something or not, you know? So, I mean, I think that's just kind of a cliche, you know, things, more knowledge, more power, you know, like read
but there is there's a reason why those sayings get passed along.
Yeah. So like having like a strong work ethic, like definitely having the knowledge of, that's really what all business is. It's just knowledge. It's like, I possess this sort of knowledge and you don't. And if you want it from me, then we'll, you know, come to business, right? Yeah. So, what else? I find that like time management and like distractions are so easy, especially with today's like social media world that we live in, right? It's like, I can't stand driving around and just having everyone just look down at they're just looking at their phones and they're walking around life just staring at their phones. And it's just so crazy to me. It's just, we're human beings. We're animals on this rock in space floating around. And, you know, like, look at this cat. Like, this cat's not looking at a phone. It's rubbing, like, it's like scratching its back, like laying in the sun. Like,
it's pretty sweet.
It's pretty cool.
It's a pretty sweet life of a cat.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So, you know, figuring out your time management and like figuring out your priorities of like, is Instagram your priority or is it working on your craft or is it, do you want to be an actor? Like what makes you become a better actor? Like, you know, is it taking that improv class that you've been putting off or whatever it is? So, you know, I would say definitely like trying to find your focus and actually like doing things to get to that.
I definitely lucked out that I work in social media.
Yeah.
So I get to play with my phone for work.
Oh, well, that's
so
good.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I can follow people on my computer all day and that's work.
That's cool.
I gotta work.
Yeah, that's perfect then.
What was the best words of wisdom or advice that you have gotten in your career?
Ooh, best words of wisdom. Well, I think it was in fourth grade. I had this teacher, Miss Montgomery, and she said you can do whatever you want to do. Straight up, she's like, you can do whatever you want to do. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, whatever you want to do, you can do. And I was like, all right. So I think that is it. Like, you really can. Like, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're only limited to time.
Yeah.
And as long as, you know, you can do anything. You can't do everything, but you can do anything. And I think it's really important that you know that, you know. I don't know. I think people are so caught up in their worlds and their daily grind that they don't think that anything's possible. But it's like that those limiting your mind is just it kills you, you know?
Yeah, when I do presentations at high schools or colleges or universities for HIV education, I tell them, you have no idea how powerful your mind is.
Yeah.
You have no clue.
Yeah.
I go, and I didn't realize it till I got sick, and I was like, I'm not ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it through this.
Yeah.
And kind of, you feel like you're willing your body to heal.
Yeah.
And now
you
that
can do that, right?
Yeah.
Your mind can heal your body.
And now that I practice more spirituality, and after I became a Reiki master, I definitely understand how you can make yourself sicker or you can make yourself better.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for anything, work, relationships.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah,
anything.
for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Have you ever gotten so inside your head that you thought you couldn't do something, and how did you get out of it?
Oh man, all the time. I'm always in my head.
Yeah?
Yeah, I always just like, yeah, I don't know. At times I'm just like, always just like, oh, I can't do this. Or, what I do sometimes to get out of it is I like to look at the macro picture, I'll hyper focus on, I'll close my eyes, I'll kind of like hyper focus on where I am in the micro, and then I'll just start pulling back and looking at the image of the macro. So meaning like if I'm about to go on stage and I'm super nervous and I don't want to do it and I'm like, I shouldn't be here, then I'll just like take a few breaths and I'll be like, okay, I'm just a human being floating in space, like on this earth, on this rock, like this universe is infinite, it's humongous. And I keep pulling back, and then I like look at planet Earth, and then I look at all the planets, and then I look at the galaxy, and then I kind of just like pull back and I say, this doesn't matter. This does not matter. None of this matters. None of this matters at all. So my little fear of going on stage right now or making myself look like an idiot in front of these people does not matter in the big
grander,
picture,
yeah.
So that usually pulls me out of it, and I just say fuck it, and then I go up on stage and then I do my thing. So
that's actually a counseling technique or a therapy technique. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
When I was first diagnosed back in 2000, and I later learned it in school. There's this idea when you go into therapy is you're caught up in this inside the box that you can't see the box for the whole.
Yeah.
You just see your little space.
Yeah.
But as you start stepping outside of your comfort zone, you can see everything and go, oh, it's not that big.
Yeah.
It was just big because I was inside in the dark. It just seemed bigger.
Yeah, totally.
But as you
step back. Yeah.
So speaking of that, what's Joel's comfort zone?
Oh man, this house. I don't like going outside. I have a hard time leaving the house. Every time I step out, I'm like, this could be it. Like this fear of death is probably huge. Like I think that's a reoccurring thing in my life is I get in that car, I don't know what's going to happen, like, so yeah, I find my little comfort zone is in my little world of my house, my cats, my lady, and, I think that's where I'm most comfortable. But then again, when I do leave the house and I do go, let's say I do a show, like I'm doing a show tomorrow night at a comedy club, the whole drive is going to be painful. But as soon as I get there and I set up and I'm around people, and then as soon as I hit the stage and I start doing my thing, that's also a comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's just like being accepted, by other human beings and making people smile and laugh and kind of forget about their daily struggles,
So you believe that making other people enjoy the moment allows you to enjoy the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm a pleaser, so I want other people to be pleased, and when they're pleased, I'm pleased. So
I get that.
Yeah.
Because I'll leave here wondering, I hope he enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, totally.
I hope this was good. And even if like, I usually text people back, like, I hope everything was okay.
Yeah.
Even after they respond, yeah, I'll still ponder on it.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Like, oh man, I hope,
yeah.
Because I want him to be okay.
Oh, I always wonder that every show. Even if I know I killed it, I'm like, I wonder if the client liked it, or I wonder if they really liked me, you know?
Yeah.
And the worst feeling is knowing that they didn't, you know?
Oh.
And then it's just like, oh, I didn't do my job. I didn't do my one job, you know?
Yeah.
That's just the worst.
I do that with when I go do card readings or at a party or an event, and one person, I can read 20 people, but one person tells me, you weren't accurate.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I take home with me. That's the one that makes me order 5 tacos instead of just 2. So,
right?
Yeah, because I don't drink, so it's got to be tacos for me. Well, we're running out of time. Before we go, where can people find you? Website information, all that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So my website is joelward.com, JOELWARD.com. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Joel Ward. My YouTube is kind of weak at the moment. I post all my good videos through Vimeo on my website.
Okay.
A lot of it is TV content that YouTube restricts, so I just kind of stopped uploading to YouTube over the years because a lot of my videos are from television. So I post most of my like videos through the website. You can go to like the news section or the videos section on my website, or just my Vimeo page, which I think is Joel Ward or Magic Joel, one of the two. Yeah, I mean that's. And then also I'm just like out and about touring, doing shows. I perform regularly at the Magic Castle here in Hollywood, different comedy clubs, and also just like all over. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any final words for your followers, for your fans?
Yeah, I mean, I just like, people who have a passion for something, it's like, the time is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not next year when you're in better financial control of your life. It's now. Take a step towards doing something for yourself today. And it's like, that's really all we can do. So it's like, do it now. The time is now. So,
cool.
I don't know.
I think those were really good words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I'm going to put those as your words of wisdom.
Yeah, right?
and the last one before we go.
Yeah.
Young kid out there knows that we did this podcast and wants to listen to it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be a magician.
Yeah.
Let's practice a little bit. What fatherly advice would you give a young magician?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, like learning magic, I had to it was all like published in books, you know? But today, like, the kids have the internet and there's so much free training materials out there, on the internet. Like, a kid can just go to YouTube and just type in free magic trick and learn hundreds of hours of magic tricks.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't even need to ever purchase anything or buy a book or go to the library and learn anything because it's all given away for free on the internet. So I'm a visual learner. So learning from like a YouTube video would be where I would go. That's where I would start.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
of course. We've come up to the hour.
All right.
So it went faster than,
Yeah.
It usually goes faster than people think.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody listening, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have with illusionist Joel Ward. Please follow us at Abnormal. I forget what I'm supposed to say. Please follow us at abnormalentertainment.com, where you can find all the shows on the network. I want to thank again my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Go check me out at Put It Together Podcast on Facebook. You can also find me at Zodiacs with Daniel and Wayne. Remember that show every other Monday, 7 o'clock on Facebook Live. So check that out. For now, I want to thank Joel Ward again for being on my show. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, buddy.
It's been a pleasure.
Super fun.
Everybody else out there, this is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.